Bob Iger humiliated after Sonic 3 dominates over Mufasa failure. Now, this is huge, and also it's not really surprising to all of us, So welcome back to Views with Hughes, Culture and News. This is Jerome Hughes. Now, let's go ahead and get right into it. All right. Still on the same topic as yesterday's was days before. Bob Iger at Disney, the Juggernaut of entertainment, supposedly are out there making some bold claims about the latest release of Mufasa the Lion King. Now, they're bragging left and right, as you all can see here, that it's the whole #1 movie in America, even calling it the #1 movie in the world. But, and this is a big but, it's looking like that claim might not exactly be grounded in reality. And honestly, it's getting a little embarrassing for Bob Iger and the company itself. Meanwhile, Sonic 3 is actually leading the box office in a way that's impossible to ignore. Okay, so here's the big deal right here. You see, over the weekend, we had Mufasa, the Lion King, going up against Sonic 3. Both movies, well, one's a heavier hitter than the other, but they're both heavy hitters in their own way. And it's pretty competitive box office season right now with Christmas and other holidays that's bringing families to theaters. Now, as you all might have known, Bob Iger and Disney naturally want to plant their flag in the ground and declare victory. But you know what? According to the weekend box office numbers, Sonic 3 is actually ahead of Mufasa by about $1 million. Yes, I've said this before. The blue blur took the lead with even fewer screens and a smaller marketing push, as I've reported before. Yet Bob Iger and Disney jumped the gun and claimed their movie was #1. Oops. Well, what happened next? Well, if you've been on X, formerly known as Twitter, you might have seen that Bob Iger's Disney got hit with a community note, as you all can see here. The little fat check boxes that pop up when someone posts something misleading. Yeah, Bob Iger and Disney got one of those. Basically, the note pointed out that Sonic 3 was actually on the top movie, and the numbers just didn't back up Disney's, bold proclamation. And this isn't the first time that Bob Iger and the company that he runs has been called out like this. Just last week, they claimed that Mufasa was the #1 movie in the world, but the note had to clarify that Sonic 3 wasn't even an international release yet. So maybe slow your roll, Bob Iger, and actually wait for the numbers to go ahead and come out fully. But that's no surprise. Now, I know what you think. How does something like this actually happen? Well, there's a few things here that's going on. First off, Bob Iger and the company that he runs have some serious deals with theaters that can limit screen availability for other movies, as I've reported before. You see, Sonic 3 is stuck on, fewer screens, and some theaters just can't open up more showings because of those contracts. So if you're a family trying to decide on a movie and the Sonic 3 showtimes are sold out, guess what? You're probably going to pick up the next safe option. And basically, that's where, Mufasa comes in. And now it's somewhat of a recognizable brand. It's a family-friendly thing, and, it's easy to compromise for grandma and the kids. But it still can't beat Sonic 3. But then again, the movie Mufasa is a bit of a head scratcher. See, all the tracking leading up to its release suggested that it was going to be a flop. I mean, there's no surprise there. The buzz just wasn't even there at all, and people weren't talking about it. And, it seemed like Bob Iger and Disney might have a dud on their hands. No surprise there either. And yet here we are with their movie certainly pulling in decent numbers. Now, I'm not saying Bob Iger is fudging the numbers, but let's just say they have a history of creative marketing strategies. Meanwhile, Sonic 3 continues to go ahead and draw in all the audiences organically. Now, going to break this down further. For instance, we've seen studios that Bob Iger and Disney included allocate part of their marketing budget to go ahead and just buy up tickets for their own movies. Now, it's not illegal, but it's a clever way to artificially boost the box office numbers and create an illusion of a hit. In other words, they're deceptive. And if you're spending $1 million on tickets, half of that money comes back to the studio anyway. I mean, sounds like a win-win situation for Bob Iger and the company. So is that what's happening here? I mean, who knows, but it's definitely something to think about. But meanwhile, Sonic 3 is ranking in genuine ticket sales and, positive reviews. But then again, there's also another thing that's actually raising eyebrows. You see, there's a sudden surge in events in attendance for Mufasa. So you see, last weekend, I went to see Sonic 3, and let me tell y'all something. The theater was packed. People were excited, kids were buzzing, and it felt like a real event. Meanwhile, the theater showing Mufasa was almost empty. Matter of fact, when I went to the theaters, I didn't see anyone talk about Mufasa. So how did things change so drastically in just a few days? I mean, if you ask me, it doesn't add up. It makes me wonder what Bob Iger and the company are actually up to. But what's even more suspicious is the lack of word of mouth buzz for Mufasa. Now, usually when a movie has a big second weekend, it's because people saw it, loved it, and told their friends and family to check it out. But I'm not seeing that with Mufasa here. And there's no groundswell of excitement, no viral social media moments. Nothing is just there, just sitting there playing. Meanwhile, Sonic 3, on the other hand, is having people raving about the movie. And it's fun, exciting. It's a movie that fans genuinely seem to love. And that's no surprise with Sonic 3 right there. But let's be fair here. The holiday season does shake things up, and families are actually looking for things to do, and movies are an easy choice. Plus, with kids out of school and people are taking time off work, attendance patterns can be a little unpredictable. But even with all that in mind, Mufasa's numbers still feel a little off, if you ask me, especially compared to Sonic 3, which continues to perform strongly despite its challenges. And you know what? There's other competition as well, of course. Don't forget about that. Besides Sonic 3 and Mufasa, we also got Moana 2, which is also a Bob Iger and Disney movie. And then there's also Nosferatu, which came in at number 3, catering to a completely different audience. Moana 2 had a solid jump in the box office numbers this weekend, which is expected for, a holiday week. But Mufasa only saw a 5% increase from its, first weekend. And that's unusual for a movie in its second weekend, especially one that supposedly dominated the box office, according to Bob Iger and Disney. Meanwhile, Sonic 3 saw an admirable 37% drop, which is a strong hold for the second weekend. So what's really going on here? Now, my guess is that Bob Iger and Disney are desperate to end the year on a high note. Now, but let's face it, 2024 hasn't exactly been a banner year for them. They've had some big flops and their reputation has taken a hit. So probably doing everything they can to spin Mufasa as success, just like they did with other movies last year. And I get it. They've got shareholders to please and they want to keep the Bob Iger brand looking strong. But getting community noted twice in just 2 weeks, that's just downright embarrassing, especially when Sonic 3 is outperforming them at every turn. And that right there is not surprising at all because we've seen that happen. We've predicted it, but at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. Sonic 3 is outperforming the Disney movie in almost every way. And it's got a better word of mouth. It's pulling in more enthusiastic audiences and is doing it with fewer screens and a smaller budget. I mean, that's basically just a testament to the strength of Sonic 3 brand and the quality of the movie itself. Meanwhile, Mufasa, on the other hand, feels like it's being propped up by marketing dollars and Bob Iger's sheer determination to try and go ahead and declare win. But, I mean, look, I'm not saying, Bob Iger and Disney are evil or anything, but they're a business and they're doing what, they think they need to do to stay on top. But I mean, at some point, you got to ask yourself, how much of this is real and how much is just smoke and mirrors? I mean, let's be real here. Mufasa really is the number one movie. I mean, if Mufasa really is the number one movie, then great. But if it's not, and Bob Iger is just trying to spin a narrative, that's a major problem. So What do you all think? Is Bob Iger and the company he's overplaying fair here, or is there some funny business going on behind the scenes? Are you Team Sonic, or did you actually enjoy Mufasa? Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Also, be sure to include any additional thoughts you may have on this particular topic. If you enjoy what was shared in this video, go ahead and smash the like button, share the video far wide across social media. And if you haven't done so already, you enjoyed all the content that I put out there, go ahead, subscribe to the channel. Click the bell notification so that way you will be notified of future uploads and updates. Till then, peace.